So a couple of weeks ago, I put out this video on Twitter talking about AI and how it's impacted my business. And in particular, I'm talking about like the coding tools and the engineering tools like Claude Code, Replit, which is like a very user-friendly vibe coding software. I have no connection with Replit. I don't work with them. I'm not like a sponsor and advertiser for them. It's just a tool that has like drastically changed the way that we do business internally and the way that I imagine business is going to change going forward. It allows people that are non-technical like myself that don't have an engineering background whatsoever to build the products and software and tools for their customers or fan base that they have in their mind that they would not otherwise be able to do so with. And I made the video and I just talked about like my experience with it over the last 6 months, 12 months, whatever, and how passionate I became about it. And it kind of made the rounds on Twitter, got a lot of engagement. The CEO of Replit ended up quote tweeting it and following me, which is really cool. But more importantly, a lot of you guys reached out to me, I guess thanking me, but like also just talking through different things that they wanted to build, how to get started. And I've seen some really cool shit being built. So in today's video, I wanted to talk through 8 to 10 of the most frequently asked questions that I got about vibe coding in general, how to build properly. And again, I'm not a technical person, so everything I say is not going to be correct all the time. I'm just talking through my experiences. One thing I will never ever do is act as if I've learned something that a technical person built for me, or like zoom through something that I feel like is difficult that I didn't explain well. So everything you hear from me is going to be from my own personal experience, something that I stumbled upon, something that I learned, so that I can teach it to normal people who are not technical people in a way that hopefully they can consume and understand. And just to define vibe coding, I guess, I don't know what the proper definition is. For me, vibe coding allows non-technical people to build software and product. And sometimes they're doing it incorrectly. And if you're building something very, very deep and it's a very mature app or platform, you probably will need hands on deck from someone with an engineering background. And vibe coding to real engineers might mean like allowing Claude Code to build out while you're just kind of watching the architecture build itself out and understanding the structure of everything. So I think it's going to mean different things to different people. This is definitely like a more beginner level list. And I think the next video might be a little bit more like intermediate, maybe some technical things that I've learned that I want to pass on to you guys so that you can build more solidly from the foundation. So the very first thing I want to talk about is like the difference between Claude Code, Replit, and some of these platforms. And I would say very, very simply put, if you have zero technical background, you're likely not going to be able to use Claude Code or understand the purpose of it. Claude Code basically integrates with your already written code base. So you can make changes and it's extremely powerful. And I would say from a functionality and efficiency standpoint, much more powerful than a lot of the other tools. An app like Replit is like all in one. Inside Replit, you can ideate your plan. It can literally build the app or website for you. You can publish it. You can have user information stored in there. You can connect Stripe via Replit and like everything can be done in-house. You are talking to a chat agent, which you are for all the LLM models, but Replit is like the container around these chat agents, right? It's like built the infrastructure. When you're talking to the chat agent, you're not necessarily talking, as far as I know, to like Replit's agent. Replit pulls in these different models. So it has Claude inside the model. It has ChatGPT. It takes these really powerful models and then you're using them within Replit. And then Replit has these other things that are also like connecting into it. And the better the model you're using within Replit, Claude might be the more expensive one if you change the settings in the model, and that's going to be a little bit more expensive for you. Terrible, terrible comparison here, but think of Replit as like the bar. It's a restaurant bar. And then think of ChatGPT as whiskey, Claude as tequila, Gemini as vodka. If you want a shot of Don Julio, you're going to pay a good amount of money for it, but the money's going to the bar. The money's going to Replit, even though you are using Claude, even though you are taking a shot of tequila. They already figured out the business transaction part of it on the back end. So very long-winded way of saying, if you are completely tech averse, like you don't know anything about coding or engineering, getting on Replit, very, very easy and will help you from the rip. And then number two, I want to really quickly run through this, like choosing a membership plan on Replit. The $20 versus the $100 a month one, I get a lot of questions about what the difference is. Go with the $20 a month one, especially if you're not building anything like wildly complex here. That will be more than enough to get you started. That's basically just like the amount of credits they're going to give you at the start to put into your agent. Because every time the agent does a task for you, oh, change the color of this button, put this text instead of that text, it charges you a little bit. So if you have the $100 a month membership, it's just going to give you that many credits towards the agent, but it's at a discount. So the more you purchase up front, the more discount, but you can go over that credit amount. It doesn't like cap you at $20 a month. It just gives you some minor discount, and it gives you access to a little bit of a more powerful tool or model in there, which I don't think anyone that's starting out doing these from the rip really need to be messing around with yet. All right, so let's move on to number 3, which is actually like getting to the building of the app, and more so focused on putting your prompt into it, because you'll see like a basic prompt box and you choose whatever kind of thing you're building, right? Like a web app, a mobile app, slides, etc. For this video, I'm going to be talking mostly about like web apps, like you're building a website. So when I come up with an idea, the very first thing I do is not start typing it into the prompt box. I'll actually go to whatever my favorite LLM is. If it's ChatGPT, if you feel most comfortable with that, if it's Claude, if it's Gemini, if it's Grok, it doesn't matter. Whatever you choose, what I do, what I'm most comfortable with is talking into that LLM. So I will start the voice note and then I will just ramble about the idea that I'm trying to build. And it doesn't matter what order you start talking about things in. If you want to start talking about the color, if you want to start talking about the purpose of the app, the LLMs are really good at organizing it for you afterwards. So what I would say is start to talk about your idea, get very in-depth, as in-depth as you want to with your idea, and then explain to it at the end, hey, I need you to write me up a replit prompt that I'm going to put in there to help me build this app. So flesh the idea out for me. And one thing I've always found really helpful at the end of almost every prompt that I put in, no matter if I'm building on Claude Code, on Replit, if I'm talking to it via voice on ChatGPT, the end of it, I will always say, if you don't understand anything, thoroughly interview me. Don't assume things if you don't know the answer to them. That's one of my favorite form factors of talking to an LLM, is when they actually interview and ask you questions so that they know what to build. So you want to flush out the idea as much as possible through talking to it. One of the most helpful things you can do as well is provide it screenshots. So if you have design inspiration, if you have font inspiration, if you have color inspiration, if you have a feature inspiration, anything that you've pulled inspiration from, just taking a screenshot and dropping it into that prompt as well as you're explaining what you want, super helpful. And I would also tell it, like, don't get technical with the prompt that we're giving Replit. You don't need it to tell you the code of it. You don't need it to ask you like, hey, are you building it out in React or X or Y or whatever these different coding languages are. Replit will do that for you. Any of these sites, any of these LLMs will do that for you. They know what to do. They know how to build it from the rip, as long as you're giving them like a normal English focused prompt. So talk through it with an LLM, ask it to interview you. You can ask it, hey, are there any features that I'm not thinking about? Are there any edge cases that I'm not thinking about? And just like keep working through it and keep defining the prompt. The more you do that, the better off the app is going to be from the rip. And that's usually a good start, you know, just thinking through very obvious things. Is this for users? Are we going to have users on the website, or is it just for me? You can be very detailed without being very technical, you know, just walk through it as if you are a user. If you're the user experience that you want for it, talk through it that way. Fine if you ramble, like you could ramble all day into the voice note and it will be able to pick up what you're talking about. They're really good. So once you get the prompt, the number one shortcut that you should be using inside Replit is Command I if you are on a Mac. Command I puts you in plan mode. Plan mode is basically being able to talk to the agent within Replit without it actually building or changing any of the code that it's building out. So I would take that original prompt and then I would throw it into the Replit agent and I would put it into plan mode. You just copy that entire prompt that Chat or Claude or whatever just gave you. And then at the end of it again, I would say, hey, if you don't understand this prompt, interview me thoroughly again. I'm in plan mode all fucking day. I love plan mode. I plan and plan and plan until we feel like the plan is really sound. And then you could put it into build mode. So it'll work for a while and then it'll spin up that first vision of the app, first functionality of the app. And you'll know immediately, like this video, you know, I could sit here and try to help you plan things out, but all the people that DM me being like, look what I built. Hey, I'm building this for my work. Hey, I'm building this for my girlfriend, whatever. Like you're going to learn the most, just like anything in life, by just going out there and doing. Once the app is built, you'll notice really quickly what you like, what you don't like, and start fixing it. Imagine your app is like it's like the ladder to heaven, right? You've got to climb up the steps in order to get to the end of the ladder. As you're building out these apps, each step is basically broken. So imagine your user experience or your experience from start to finish, right? You're building out an app because you have an idea for it. You're building out an app because it's solving a need for you. So go through that fucking need from start to finish. Go through it from A to Z. Use it exactly how you imagine it being used in the real world. Use it as if you have 1,000 users on it. Use it as if you're the only one using it, but go from A to Z. And if you get to any point where it's like, okay, that next step is shaky, fix it. Any point in which you feel a hesitation or you feel a pull, like that doesn't feel right, that's moving slow, I don't like that, fix it. If it's not intuitive, fix that. And that is how you have a really, really sound ladder to eventually walk up. All these things can be accomplished within the agent by just talking to it normally. Like, don't be stupid, but just speak plain English to it. And you can get so detailed with the changes that you make. For instance, like if there's a part of your website where it's like, hey, I want every user on my website to be able to upload a profile picture. It might build it out, and then you get to that part of the website where they're allowed to upload it. And the user experience is that it's like they click a link that says upload profile picture, and then it takes them to their application stack or whatever, where they got to go through their pictures, etc. For me, I'm like, we're living in 2026. I want this to have a drag and drop feature. Like I want to be able to just drop an image in there. So rather than having to click on the link and go through all your files, you're allowed to just find an image and drop it right in there, and it can pick it up. Like those are the minor changes that I'm thinking about. There's nothing off the table when you're building with this stuff. The smallest change or piece of intuition that helps the user or helps yourself maneuver through what you imagine being in your mind, you are allowed to change. The apps will keep building itself out and making it look better, and you'll continue to tweak designs, etc. For the most part, it's really good at redesigning things for both desktop and mobile at the same time. So if you're only using like the desktop view to make edits and see what things look like, most of the time when it makes changes, it intuitively knows like, hey, let's also make this look good when people are on the mobile view. And you'll be able to see that just by like the little bar on the top, which you can switch views to. So you can look and see what the website looks like if you're on an iPhone 7, a Pro Max, a Samsung, whatever. And sometimes some of the pages will look a little bit warped or a little bit funky on mobile. And when you're talking to the agent, just let it know that. Just be like, hey, on the mobile only view, this button kind of cuts off on the right side of the screen. And again, give it screenshots. The very best thing you can do for this thing is give it as much context as possible. Screenshots, tell it the page you're on, tell it the feature that you're working on, give it screenshots. It makes it easier for the agent to find it. It doesn't have to take a bunch of time and also waste money looking through all the files. It'll likely pick up what you're in the middle of working on, but a lot of these agents don't have memory past the actual chat that you're working in for that specific problem or feature. So let's say you log into Claude Code or you log into Replit, whatever, and you're working from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It'll have all the context within that chat. So anything that you talked about it with for that like 3-hour window or whatever, it will be able to kind of like remember what you're talking about. It'll know what you're focusing on. But if you come back 2 days later and you open up a new chat, it does not have the memory of that chat from the previous 2 days ago, unless there are parts of it that you felt really important and you saved it to the MD file. Now, this is one where I had no idea what an MD file was until like 3 months ago, and I've been working on Replit and using these AI tools for like a year at this point. So from my understanding, from a non-technical person's understanding, MD stands for Markdown. .md, you'll see, right? You'll see sometimes you're talking to the agent, it's like, let me save this in the replit.md file. What that is that's like the memory of the project you're working on. While an individual chat will not save everything that you're talking about forever, the MD file is what basically every time you start a feature, every time you open up the app, every time you're working on the website, it has the MD file there as like the standard, as the North Star. So at any point, again, you can go into chat, you could turn it to plan mode, and you can say like, hey, what's in the replit.md file right now? And maybe there are parts of the design, like say you only want the website to ever use one font. You want it to use Arial. Like you want to make sure that that's in the replit.md file. And you can just tell it, hey, I only want this website to use different variations of the Arial font. Save that to the replit.md file. The MD file, think of that as like the memory file. Think of the MD file as like as bumpers on a bowling alley, on a lane, where every throw will first get filtered through the MD file. And then you can layer context on top of it in an agent. So if every time you start doing something new and you realize like, hey, it does the same thing every fucking time, why does it do that? It's likely because in the very first prompt that you gave it when you built the app, it had something in there that saved to the MD file, and it always looks at that. And you can create other MD files, but I'm not going to go into that because I'm not like an expert on that and I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. But you can have an MD file that's specific to certain things like design.md. So I just think that's important to know as someone who doesn't even know much about Markdown files. I think it's good to just like understand what a basic premise of them are when you're going. And the last thing I would say is the publishing part of this. Now, making the website live, very, very easy on Replit. Why am I tying my shoe in the middle of this video? You can make a website live really easy. It's like a few clicks of the button, depending on what you need. There are different types of deployment, depending on if you're expecting 1,000 users on the site right away, if you're just someone who wants to use it himself, or just like an internal tool that you want a URL for. What I found, to be honest with you, is like, I wouldn't publish the website unless you really need to. If you're using it for internal tools, if you are using it for internal content, I don't think there's any need to publish the website, because then every time you make a change, no matter how minor, if you want that new URL to show the changes, you have to republish it. It takes a couple minutes to do it. It's not a big deal, but I just don't see the purpose of it, because you could always, inside of Replit, there's like a little arrow tab that allows it to like pop out, and it pops out like a test URL basically. So it allows you to preview what the website would look like in a URL, and you can just use that URL as if you are using it on a published website when it's not published. Once you do publish the website and you share that URL to other users, to other people, nothing that you change in Replit, like while you're talking to the agent, will actually change on that published website until you go through until you click the publish button on it. So you can make 100 changes within Replit, within the agent, and nothing will change the URL. Once you hit publish, then when people refresh that URL again, then they'll see all those changes come live. So I'm gonna wrap up there. Next video, I'm gonna go into maybe some more technical, some more intermediate things that I've learned as I've been building out a pretty deep app that has a lot of data inside of it, a lot of different APIs and things like that. I wanna make sure that you guys are thinking about it a little bit more like structurally sound, and how the back end data might transfer to the front end. As someone who works in sports media and uses a lot of data, and a lot of numbers are showing on the front end, the front end is just basically like what the user sees. Front end is design, user seeing. Back end is all like the data and the code being stored. So hopefully this was helpful. Clearly not very organized, but that is kind of the premise of most of my videos. If you've built anything via any of these apps, love to see them. Drop the links to them. If you publish them, I'm sure other people that watch the video would like to see how you built it, and like maybe you guys can work together. If you've got questions, whatever, keep DMing me. If you have questions, I'll try to help as many people as I possibly can. And subscribe to the channel if you're watching this on YouTube and you are new here. And I will see you in the next video, whenever that may be. Smoochies.